Here we go.
Here we are, Dan the camera.
Hi, my name is Rhonda Howe, and today we're going to talk about seatbelt safety. Everyone has seen the signs, click it or ticket, feed the habit. Slogans referring to the usage of seatbelts. Why is it that we need to be constantly reminded to use our seatbelts? Why isn't it something that we just naturally do, knowing that it's the right thing to do? Here I actually have a pamphlet. It says, how can you remember to buckle up? It actually gives you some tips. It says attach a visual reminder to your car keys, keep a note or a sticker on your steering wheel, or make it a goal of your families and friends to make sure that everybody's being buckled up. The South Dakota state law states that whenever your vehicle is in motion, all front seat passengers must be buckled up. All youth under 18 must be buckled up, whether they're in the front seat or the back seat. And kids under the age of 5 and under 40 pounds must be in a car seat or a booster seat, safety seat as they call it. Feed me, feed the habit. Remembering to buckle up isn't that hard. After all, more than 70% of people do it. Why? Because it's smart and it's easy and it's the right thing to do. It takes about 3 weeks to pick up a good habit. So you'd have to buckle your seatbelt 21 days in a row to get yourself into the habit of using your seatbelt on a daily basis. According to the website cdc.gov, dated January 4th, 2011, motor vehicle crashes are the #1 cause of death in the first decades of Americans' lives. In 2009 alone, crashes killed over 33,000 people and injured 2.2 million. More than 70% of these passengers were in a vehicle, and more than half of them were killed. Half of them that were killed were not wearing seatbelts. Seatbelts is an effective way to prevent death and serious injury in a crash. Seatbelt use is on the rise. There's more education, laws, and improved technology, which is helping to promote seatbelt use. Yet 1 in 7 people still do not use their seatbelts. Things that we do know is that most drivers killed in crashes are unrestrained or not wearing their seatbelts. Seatbelts dramatically reduce the risk of death and serious injury. Seatbelts prevent drivers from being ejected from a crash. People not wearing seatbelts are 30 times more likely to be ejected from a vehicle. More than 3 out of 4 people who are ejected during a crash will die from their injuries. Seatbelts save thousands of lives every year, and increasing usage would save thousands more. What can we do to get people to wear their seatbelts? They are just meant to protect people from death and injury. Are we in too much of a hurry? Are we distracted, or do we just forget? Are these good reasons for not wearing a seatbelt? Thousands die because of this. The CDC recommends that well-enforced seatbelt laws will help to ensure that everyone is buckling up. There are laws that require the use of seatbelts. They are primary laws and secondary laws. Primary laws allow law enforcement to pull over a driver if the driver or passenger is not wearing a seatbelt. Secondary laws allow law enforcement to only ticket for a seatbelt violation if the driver has been pulled over for something else. According to the website dps.sd.gov, front seat occupants have been required to be fastened by a safety system since 1995. And child passenger restraint systems, or car seats, have been in law since 1984. So here's a little bit of history on the development of seatbelts. According to the website inventors.about.com, an article by Mary Bellis. The first U.S. patent for automobile seatbelts was issued to an Edward Claghorn of New York, New York, on February 10, 1885. Claghorn was granted a patent for a safety belt for tourists, described in the patent as designed to be applied to the person and provided with hooks and other attachments for securing the person to a fixed object. The Swedish inventor Nils Bohlin invented the three-point seatbelt. Now it's a standard safety device in most cars. Nils Bohlin's lap and shoulder belt was introduced by Volvo in 1959. The first child car seats were invented in 1921, following the introduction of Henry Ford's Model T, but they were very different from the car seats that we know of today. The earliest version was essentially a sack with a drawstring that was attached to the back seat. In 1978, Tennessee became the first state to require child safety car seats. So why should we use seatbelts? Here's some information that we found on the website, www.ehs.okstate.edu. 40,000 people die each year in a car accident. Excuse me. It is the leading cause of death to people under the age of 35. Seatbelts can prevent death in about half of these accidents. If you're not aware of these facts and you're still not wearing a seatbelt, then let me ask you the question, why not? Here's what could happen when a car would crash. Imagine yourself running as fast as you can into a wall. You'd get hurt, you'd get banged up pretty good. Now picture a wall suddenly jumping up in front of you when you are 2 feet away from it. Do you think you could stop? No. This is the same situation that you would face if your car was hitting something at 15 miles per hour. The car stops in the first tenth of a second, but you keep on at the same rate that you were going in the car until something stops you, like the dashboard, the steering wheel, or the windshield, if you weren't wearing your seatbelt. Just think of the impact if you were traveling at 30 miles per hour. It is the same impact as if you were to fall 3 stories down. A properly worn seatbelt would keep this from happening. So how should you wear your seatbelt? A properly worn seatbelt means that both straps are snugly fit to transfer the impact of a collision to parts of your body that can handle the impact, and that's your hip bones and your shoulder bones. With just the shoulder strap, you could slide underneath the seatbelt and strangle yourself, while with a lap belt on only, it would not keep your face from hitting the steering wheel or the windshield. Some common excuses for not wearing a seatbelt. I'm only going down the road. 80% of traffic fatalities happen within 25 miles from home, and you're going less than 40 miles an hour. Well, I won't get in an accident because I'm a good driver. Well, you could be hit by a bad driver. Well, I'll just brace myself. Even if you did, the impact would shatter the arm or the leg that you used to brace yourself. I'm afraid that the belt will trap me in the car. The safest place that you could be during an accident is in the car. If you were thrown out, you're 25 times more likely to die. If you need to get out of the car in a hurry, it is in the unlikely chance of a fire or the possible submerging of a vehicle in water, you can still get out of your seatbelt a lot faster if you haven't knocked yourself out inside your car. Another excuse is, I don't need a seatbelt, I have an airbag. Well, an airbag won't help you on a side collision. I interviewed Sheriff Andy Howe, Clay County Sheriff for Vermillion, South Dakota, and asked him a couple of questions on seatbelt safety and some of the issues that he's seen regarding seatbelt safety. First, I asked him, is South Dakota a primary or secondary enforcement state? He stated that we are both. Primary if under 18, and secondary if over 18. If under 18, you could be stopped for a seatbelt violation. If over 18, there has to be another offense before they can cite you with a ticket for seatbelt violation. Some of the reasons why people don't use their seatbelts, he stated they say they're uncomfortable, and I wouldn't be able to get out of my car in time if there was an accident. I asked him what the average fine for a seatbelt violation is in South Dakota, and he said it was $25. What are some common injuries that you see wearing a seatbelt? Leg injuries from hitting a dashboard, face injuries from hitting the steering wheel or the windshield, crushing injuries to your head and your chest from being ejected from a vehicle, and broken necks from being ejected from a vehicle. crushing chest wounds, crushing chest wounds from the impact of the steering wheel. According to the website www.nsc.org, seatbelts save lives. While seatbelt use has been increasing and averages 88% nationally, there are still groups that are less likely to wear seatbelts. Teens, commercial drivers, males in rural areas, pickup truck drivers, people driving at night, and people who've been drinking. In conclusion, over the years there have been many improvements in the use of seatbelts. Is it because there's now the possibility that you could get a ticket or a fine for not wearing it? Or are people becoming more conscientious of seatbelt safety? I hope it's the latter. It is proven that wearing a seatbelt saves lives, so why take a chance when you don't have to?